You know how sometimes you're really going after something and you just assume it's because you, well, want to succeed? Well, today we're diving way deeper than that simple idea. We're going to unpack the different ways we actually approach achievement, the hidden drivers behind what makes us try hard, or maybe even try not to fail.
Exactly. It's fascinating when you start to realize that wanting to succeed can mean very different things to different people and even to the same person in different situations. To really understand this, we've been digging into the insights from the article Achievement Goals and the Hierarchical Model of Achievement Motivation by Andrew J. Elliott and Todd M. Thrash.
So think of this as your shortcut to understanding what truly fuels you and, others in those moments when competence is on the line. Our mission is to dissect the different ways we define and pursue being good at something. Forget just wanting it. We're looking at the underlying frameworks that reveal whether we're driven by getting better ourselves, beating everyone else, or simply avoiding a stumble. And trust me, how you answer that question have a massive impact on your learning, your performance, and the whole experience.
Yeah, and what's really interesting to consider right off the bat is that even though the idea of achievement goals is super influential in understanding why we do what we do,
Hmm.
the experts haven't always agreed on one single clear definition of what an achievement goal actually is. It's kind of surprising.
Okay, hold on. A core concept, but no solid agreement on what it means. That's like trying to follow a recipe where everyone has a slightly different idea of what a pinch is. So what are the main ways these goals have been described then?
Well, the article highlights two common approaches. The first one describes an achievement goal as the purpose behind why someone engages in an activity where they can achieve something. It's the why, the reason that motivates the action.
Hmm.
So if you're practicing a new language, maybe your purpose is to be able to converse fluently with native speakers. That's the why.
Right, the driving intention. Okay. And the other way.
The second perspective sees achievement goals as a bigger picture, like an integrated pattern of your beliefs about your abilities, your feelings towards the task, and the standards you use to judge whether you've been successful. It's more of an overall mindset or orientation you bring to the achievement situation.
So it's not just the why, but also your confidence levels, maybe your anxieties, and what your personal yardstick for success looks like, all bundled together.
Exactly. And the authors of this article point out that these broader definitions, while, helpful in some ways, can also create some problems. One key issue is that because they bundle together so many different elements, it can be tough to figure out precisely which part of that goal is actually causing the effects we observe.
Okay. For instance, if someone who really wants to outperform their colleagues ends up feeling totally deflated if they don't come out on top, is that feeling driven by the desire to win or maybe the fear of looking inadequate that gets tangled up?
That's exactly it. It becomes hard to isolate the key drivers. Another challenge is, well, there's no clear line on how many of these characteristics need to be present for someone to truly be said to have adopted a particular goal. If it's just one thing, the label becomes so broad it almost loses its meaning. But if you need a whole checklist of traits, it might not accurately reflect how people actually operate in the real world. It's like saying you can only call a dish spicy if it has chili flakes, cayenne pepper, and habanero sauce. You'd miss a lot of subtly spicy food.
Right. That makes sense. So to cut through this, the article proposes a more focused definition, right? Something about the aim of competence.
Precisely. They suggest that an achievement goal is best understood as a cognitive representation of a competence-based possibility that an individual seeks to attain.
Okay, let's dissect that.
Yeah.
Cognitive representation to how we're thinking about it in our minds.
Uh-huh.
Competence-based possibility.
Yeah.
It's about the potential to get better at something or demonstrate your ability. Seeks to attain. That's the core aim, the target we're actively trying to hit.
Exactly. And this definition makes a really crucial distinction. It separates the reason why we might be striving for something from the aim itself, the specific goal we're focused on. Think about climbing a mountain. The aim is to reach the summit, right? That's a competence-based possibility demonstrating physical prowess. But the reasons why someone wants to reach the summit could be varied. For the personal challenge, to feel a sense of accomplishment, maybe to take a winning photo for social media. The ultimate aim is the same, but the underlying motivations are different.
That's a really helpful analogy.
Mhm.
So two people could both be aiming to ace a presentation. That's the goal. But one might be doing it because they genuinely want to share their knowledge effectively,
Yeah.
while the other is primarily focused on impressing their boss. Same goal, different why.
Precisely. And the article argues that by making this distinction, we can gain a much clearer understanding of how different reasons can lead to the very same achievement goal. It allows us to investigate those connections more effectively.
Okay, so we have this more precise idea of what an achievement goal is the aim of competence. How does this fit into the bigger picture of what drives us, the whole motivation thing?
Right. That's where the hierarchical model of achievement motivation comes into play. It's a framework that tries to integrate these specific goals or aims related to competence with the broader underlying reasons, those fundamental desires and motives that give our behavior its energy.
So it's a way of connecting the dots from our deepest drives to our specific targets of achievement. Interesting. What are the key elements of this model?
Okay, so the model suggests that achievement goals can be differentiated along two key dimensions. The first is the definition of competence. How are we actually defining what it means to be competent in a particular situation? The article outlines three distinct standards here: absolute, interpersonal, and normative.
All right, let's break those down. Absolute sounds like it's about mastering the task itself, regardless of anyone else, like finally understanding a complex mathematical equation.
Exactly. It's about achieving a certain level of mastery or understanding of the task at hand, independent of how others are performing. Then, interpersonal competence, on the other hand, is about self-improvement. It's comparing your current performance to your past performance, focusing on your own growth and development. Think about trying to beat your personal best in a race.
Okay, so if I'm trying to write a better report this month than I did last month, that's interpersonal. Makes sense. And normative must be all about comparison, seeing how you stack up against others.
Precisely. It's about demonstrating superior skill or knowledge compared to your peers. Getting the top sales figures in your team would be a clear example of normative competence.
Got it. So those are the different ways we judge competence. What's the second dimension then? The one that shapes our achievement goals.
The second dimension is valence, and this is the familiar distinction between approach and avoidance. Is our focus on actively trying to achieve a positive outcome, an approach goal? Or are we primarily driven by the desire to avoid a negative outcome, an avoidance goal?
Ah, right. So if I'm learning to play guitar, an approach goal might be to be able to play my favorite song perfectly,
Mm-hmm.
while an avoidance goal might be to not sound terrible when I play in front of my friends. Same activity, different underlying focus.
Exactly. And when you put these two dimensions together, the three ways of defining competence and the two valences, approach and avoidance, you get a potential of 6 different types of achievement goals. You've got absolute approach, absolute avoidance, interpersonal approach, interpersonal avoidance, normative approach, and normative avoidance.
Whoa, okay. That's quite a spectrum of possibilities. But the article mentions that a 2 by 2 framework has been particularly influential in research. What's the deal with that? Does it simplify things?
Yeah, it does. The 2 by 2 framework essentially simplifies things by focusing on 4 key goal orientations. It combines the absolute and interpersonal definitions of competence under the broader category of mastery. So the framework looks at mastery approach goals, where you're aiming to achieve task mastery or improve your own skills.
Okay.
Mastery avoidance goals, where you're striving not to lose competence or fall short of your own standards.
Right.
Performance approach goals, where your aim is to outperform others. And performance avoidance goals, where you're trying to avoid doing worse than others. And just to be clear on the 2 by 2, it comes from these two dimensions we're focusing on: how you define success, mastery or performance, and your motivation, approach or avoidance.
Okay. Those 4 categories, mastery approach, mastery avoidance, performance avoidance, those definitely sound more commonly discussed when we talk about motivation. So mastery is about your own competence, either in an absolute sense or compared to yourself, and performance is always about that social comparison, either aiming to be on top or just not at the bottom.
That's a great way to summarize it. And the article then delves into one of these goals that can seem a little, well, puzzling at first glance: mastery avoidance goals.
Yeah, when you first hear mastery avoidance, it almost sounds like an oxymoron, doesn't it? How can you be focused on getting better while also trying to avoid something?
That's the initial reaction many have. But the article provides some really insightful examples to make it clearer. Think about older adults, for example. As we age, we might naturally experience some decline in our physical or cognitive abilities. For someone with a mastery avoidance goal, their focus might be on trying not to lose the skills and abilities I currently have. They're not necessarily striving to improve, but to maintain a certain level of competence they've already achieved.
Ah, I see. It's about holding on to what you've got rather than gaining more. That makes sense in that context. What other examples does the article offer?
Another relatable example is athletes or, high-performing individuals who might reach a stage where they're concerned about a decline in their abilities. Their mastery avoidance goal could be something like making sure I don't perform worse than I have in the past.
Mhm.
They're striving to maintain their previous high level of performance. It's like a seasoned chef meticulously practicing techniques they already know just to ensure they don't lose their edge.
So it's like a musician constantly practicing scales, not necessarily to learn new pieces, but just to keep their fingers nimble and prevent their technique from getting rusty.
Exactly. Perfectionists are also often driven by mastery avoidance goals. Their focus might be on avoiding making any mistakes or not getting a single detail wrong. They have a very high internal standard of mastery and are intensely focused on avoiding any deviation from that.
Hmm. That really resonates with the idea of the fear of slipping up, even when you're already operating at a very high level.
Yeah.
And what's the last example of mastery avoidance mentioned in the article?
The article also talks about individuals who are concerned about their memory. They might adopt mastery avoidance goals focused on not forgetting information I've already learned. Their primary aim isn't necessarily to acquire vast amounts of new knowledge, but simply to retain what they already possess.
Wow, these examples really bring home the point that achievement goals are deeply personal. It's not always about striving for some external benchmark of success, but often about our own internal standards and concerns about maintaining our competence.
Absolutely. And it underscores the idea that even within a seemingly specific category like mastery avoidance, there can be a wide range of motivations and expressions depending on the individual and their specific circumstances.
Okay, so we've explored the different types of achievement goals, these aims related to competence. Now let's circle back to the reasons, those underlying desires and motives. How do they interact with these goals? You mentioned they were linked.
Yeah, the article emphasizes that these goals, the specific aims of competence, are really the pathways through which we pursue our more fundamental reasons. Reasons like our inherent need to feel competent, or maybe our fear of failing, provide the energy and direction that lead us to adopt particular goals. Think of reasons as being like the long-term desires, the distal predictors that set us on a course, while goals are the more immediate targets, the proximal predictors we focus on to fulfill those desires. Reasons are the why, and goals are the what we're aiming for right now.
So the underlying reason gives us the initial push, and the achievement goal focuses that energy towards a specific outcome related to our competence, like a lens focusing light.
Precisely. And this is where the concept of the goal complex comes in. The article describes this as the interconnected relationship between a goal and its underlying reason during our efforts to regulate our behavior, during self-regulation. Even if two people share the exact same achievement goal, say, a performance approach goal of wanting to be the best in the group, the specific reason why they want to be the best can lead to very different experiences, behaviors, and ultimately, outcomes.
So someone with a performance approach goal, driven by a genuine enjoyment of competition, might approach a challenge with enthusiasm and resilience.
Yeah.
Whereas someone with the exact same performance approach goal, but driven by, say, a deep-seated fear of inadequacy, might experience a lot more anxiety and be more likely to give up if they face setbacks.
Exactly. The goal complex is this combination of the specific aim and the underlying drive is really what shapes how we engage with achievement situations and the results we get. It's not just the goal in isolation.
Now, the article also touches on some other types of goals that often get mentioned alongside achievement goals. What about work avoidance goals? Where do they fit, or don't they fit?
Ah, right. The article clarifies that work avoidance goals, where the primary aim is basically to put in as little effort as possible, are generally considered to be the absence of an achievement goal rather than a specific type of achievement goal itself. The focus isn't on developing or demonstrating competence in any way. It's simply on minimizing exertion.
That makes sense. It's more about avoiding effort than actively pursuing competence.
Hmm.
Okay. What about extrinsic goals, like wanting a reward or avoiding a punishment?
Extrinsic goals, which center around earning external rewards or avoiding negative consequences, are also seen as distinct from achievement goals. Their primary focus is on those external factors, not on the inherent satisfaction of developing or showcasing your competence. While rewards and punishments can certainly influence our behavior in achievement-related situations, the underlying motivation isn't about competence itself in the way achievement goals are defined.
Right, the reward becomes the primary driver, not the desire to get better at something for its own sake or to show you're good at it. And what about social goals, like wanting to build strong relationships with your team?
Social goals, which revolve around forming or maintaining interpersonal connections, are obviously very important in many achievement settings, like group projects or team sports. However, their primary focus isn't on individual competence per se. You might work hard on a team presentation to be a good collaborator and maintain positive relationships, but your main goal isn't necessarily to master the subject matter more deeply than everyone else or to get the highest individual grade?
So while these other types of goals, work avoidance, extrinsic, and social, are definitely relevant to how we behave,
For sure.
achievement goals, in this more precise definition, are specifically centered on our relationship with competence, either developing it, demonstrating it, or maintaining it.
Exactly. And this clearer understanding has some really important implications for how we study and interpret motivation research.
Like what? How does having this more refined understanding of achievement goals actually change how we approach things in research, for example?
Well, it highlights the critical need for researchers to be very careful about how they design their studies and how they measure achievement goals. When we're trying to understand the impact of, say, a performance approach goal, we need to make sure our experiments and surveys are really targeting that specific aim of outperforming others
Yeah.
and not inadvertently tapping into some related underlying reason, like the desire for social approval or something.
The article gives some examples of this, right? How some research manipulations might unintentionally activate certain reasons along with the intended goal.
Yes, exactly. For instance, a study trying to induce a performance approach goal might instruct participants to try to do better than the other participants, but then also emphasize that doing so will demonstrate your superior abilities. That added emphasis on demonstrating ability could be activating a specific underlying reason, perhaps a need for validation rather than just the pure goal of outperforming others. It muddies the water.
So it's like trying to study the effect of one particular ingredient in a dish, but your measuring spoon keeps picking up other flavors as well. It makes it hard to isolate the true impact of the ingredient you're interested in.
Precisely. And the same applies to how we measure achievement goals using questionnaires. Some questions might directly assess the goal itself, like, it is important for me to do better than others in this class. Pretty straightforward. But other questions might also reflect an underlying reason, such as, I want to do well in this class so that my parents will be proud of me. That's bringing in an external reason, not just the goal.
Okay, so it sounds like a lot of existing research might be giving us valuable insights into these goal complexes, the blend of the aim and the underlying drive. But we need to be mindful of that when we're interpreting the findings. We need to ask ourselves, are we truly measuring the pure achievement goal, or are we also capturing the influence of specific reasons?
That's a key takeaway. And the article suggests that there's significant value in developing research tools that can more accurately target either specific goal complexes, looking at particular combinations of reasons and goals, or the goal itself in isolation. To better understand its influence across different underlying motivations, we need more precision.
It's about striving for greater clarity in our understanding. But the article also makes a really important point that in the real world, these goals and reasons are almost always intertwined, right? You can't really have a goal without some underlying source of motivation driving it.
Absolutely. In our everyday lives, when we're striving to achieve something meaningful, our goals don't exist in a vacuum. They are always fueled and shaped by our deeper desires, our concerns, and our fundamental motives. So even when we attempt to isolate a pure goal in a research setting, it's likely still connected to some underlying reasons in the minds of the participants. It's inherently linked.
It sounds like the ultimate goal here, pun intended, is to develop a more sophisticated awareness of the different layers of motivation and how they interact to drive our achievement-related behaviors.
Exactly. It's about moving towards a more nuanced and comprehensive understanding of what truly makes us strive for competence, not just saying, I want to succeed.
So to bring it all together then, the key insights from this deep dive into achievement goals are that it's a much more intricate topic than it might first appear. We've explored the crucial distinction between defining an achievement goal as the aim of competence and the underlying reasons why we pursue that aim.
Right. And we looked at the hierarchical model, which provides that framework for understanding the different ways we define competence, absolute, interpersonal, and normative, and that fundamental approach avoidance dimension that shapes our goals.
And we delve into the 2x2 framework, highlighting the four primary goal orientations: mastery approach, mastery avoidance, performance approach, and performance avoidance.
hmm With a particular focus on the often misunderstood mastery avoidance goal and its real world examples, like with older adults or perfectionists. We also discussed how these specific goals are energized and directed by our more fundamental reasons, forming what the article terms a goal complex.
And finally, we touched on the implications of this more precise understanding for how we conduct research on motivation,
hmm
emphasizing the importance of carefully considering whether we are truly measuring the pure goal or a combination of the goal and its underlying reasons. Ultimately, it's about gaining a deeper appreciation for the complexities of what motivates us in our pursuit of competence.
Precisely. It gives us better tools to think about it.
So, as you think about all of this, maybe consider a time when you were deeply invested in achieving something. Were you primarily focused on truly mastering the task, maybe on improving your own past performance? Or was it more about outperforming those around you? And perhaps more importantly, what were the deeper reasons that fueled that particular focus? Was it a genuine love of learning, a need for external validation, or, I don't know, something else entirely? It's definitely something worth pondering.
Indeed. Taking some time to reflect on your own achievement motivations through the lens of this framework can offer some really valuable insights into your own drives and behaviors. It's quite revealing.